Welcome back to Raising Real Estate Standards. My name's Brian, and got a special guest with me today, a very special guest. This is my wife, Carley Mann. Good to see you.
Hi. Good to see you too.
So Carley is, she's a real estate agent in the business, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Her and I have actually worked together some. Actually, when I got started in the business, I came on and kind of helped her. But then also we have three beautiful girls. So I want to talk a little bit about some of those things. And I want to start with kind of, you've just went through a summer with the girls. We didn't really have childcare. You take the brunt of the work, kind of watching them. And that does have an effect on your business. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes. So summer is always challenging, I think, for most families in general, just because it is not as consistent as a regular school year. And as you know, it takes a village to make this happen, and that is very much true. So I don't know if I would say I take on the full brunt of that. I think we have probably more equal share in that, as well as other family members. And so that, I would say, is a real blessing that we have other folks that are able to help with that. We do try to put together somewhat of a structure with that. And we do have seasons. So we've talked some about this. Right now is a season when our children require a little more of us as far as they need help with schooling and things. So they just have so many extra activities, and just driving them places is so much time in general. We were talking about the other day, I was like, I just feel like an Uber sometimes, or picking up their friends and, doing those different type of things. So that definitely does affect the business, for sure. There is definitely an ebb and flow and with times of the business, and that's just kind of this past season I have kind of made more of a conscious effort to put more time and energy into our children versus, 100% just pushing, making calls and doing those things to get business.
Right. So just so everybody has an understanding, so Carley and I have three daughters, two twin 12-year-olds, and one 9-year-old. So that kind of gives everybody kind of context behind where we're coming from there. I'm going to go forward first, and then I'm going to go backwards. But so forward, have you put any thought into kind of, all right, we got the kids back in school, ready to get this kind of rhythm back going again. What are some of the things that you've got in your mind that you plan on doing and that could help some of our listeners out there that are kind of trying to figure out the same things?
Yeah, we were just talking about this last night, how I was ready to get back into the office because it's just time. It's time to really put things back in place. And so I have been in the business. I don't think we've really talked about this yet, but I've been in the business for quite a while. I think I'm going on my 18th year, which is still crazy to believe that it's been that long. But so I do have a really good set business. Like I have, just to kind of give some background there, I have a really good database that I do most of my business from. So I really work that. I am a Buffini member. I was introduced to the Buffini system when we moved to RE/MAX, and it changed my business drastically. And it was just the way that I like to do business. I like to be authentic. I like to have those relationships with my clients. So I'm getting back to really, nurturing those more than just doing the business that I currently have. So that's kind of what I have pushed off some for summer is, trying to really aggressively get more business. Still, working and doing the business that I have. But I'm ready to kind of get back into those systems of calling my clients, writing notes, doing pop buys, doing my client parties. I usually really try to do those more kind of heavily in the fall because that just makes more sense in my life. And I think that's important for people to realize is where are you in your life and try to make it work around that. Don't just force something because this is what everybody else is doing or whatever. It's just to be authentic to yourself and what you like to do with your business and work it that way. So that's what I enjoy doing. So I'm excited to get back to that part of it.
Yeah, that goes along with a lot of the stuff Mark and I have talked about along the way. You know, there are seasons in your business, just like you just mentioned, and you know, whereas you know, in this case, the summer is very important to focus on the kids, and then you build your business around that. Versus, you know, we see people within the business, it's just like, I got to run as fast as I can all the time. And then you end up sacrificing, you know, your kids along the way. So, yeah, you've got to build that. That's awesome. So let's talk about, I'm going to throw you a curveball here because we didn't talk about this kind of beforehand, but you went through about 3 years of vast acceleration in your business. Mm-hmm. You hit an amazing milestone and did an enormous amount of commissions. I guess it was 2021. Yeah. And then after that, it was almost like you hit a brick wall. You had the red light kind of syndrome, you could say, where it's like, oh, I hit this goal. Now what do I do?
Right.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think I've always been very self-motivated. I think my whole life I've usually like set goals and whatever it was, I go and I achieve it and I go to the next thing and just kind of continue to progress with that. And I've never really had a problem with setting goals or where do I want to go because that's just always has been so natural to me. So yes, in 2021, I hit a major goal that I had been wanting to hit for quite a while, which is Chairman's Club for REMAX, International Chairman's Club. And so that was something super exciting for me. But then after that, I did have a moment where, what do I do now? What do I do? Mm-hmm. I don't know where to go from here. And you definitely know that. And I've still kind of been struggling with that a little bit and trying to really do some soul searching and what do I want my business look like moving forward? And it's not always so numbers driven, things like that anymore. I've kind of got to the point. So I do have a really good business and I'm so blessed for that I have, I'm good pretty, income wise, that type thing. So I'm looking for more, kind of deeper meaning and where do I go? And then also realizing with the kids, we only have so much time with them. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to be wise and listen to wise advice. You can always make more money, but you will never, you're not going to get that time back. And really trying to find that right balance. And I say that there's really not a true balance. It's always a scale is doing this. I mean, it's always tipping. And I think it's kind of a lie to have a true balance. There's just probably no such thing. And I think especially as a woman, we tell ourselves, that. And so usually one side gets really, really heavy and then we're like, whoop, we're going to push back on this side. But, really trying to make the teeter a little bit shorter and not so large, drastic changes. Just like in your business is trying to get that consistent. You're always going to have, a little bit of a wave, but you want to keep the peaks and valleys, right, closer together, right? You're always going to have seasons. Like spring is always going to be bigger than January. Like it's just, that's just kind of how it's going to be for the most part. Occasionally you'll have a, crazy month out of there that's not normal, but there's those type things and also realizing that. So, also in spring, I know that's a time that I've got to buckle down because I know that that's coming. So just kind of being aware of those things and just I'm still trying to work on that and, focus on what does that next goal and what does that next step look like for me?
Right. There was a lot there. There was a lot of gold in that. But I want to go in and pull out something you said that is funny, because I was listening to a podcast this morning on the way to take the girls to school. And it was talking about where freedom truly lies. And freedom truly lies in when you finally get to the mental state where enough is enough. And when you were talking about, hey, I hit that point. We're doing good. I'm happy with where I'm at. Now I can focus on bigger, meaningful things. And that's just an important truth I think everybody needs to know or needs to understand at some point along the way.
Right. I feel like this industry is so focused on numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get so tired of hearing about the numbers. Like, oh, so-and-so did how many millions, and that team did hundreds of millions. But then when you really break it down, like, are they having fun? Are they working themselves to death? Are they actually even making any money? That's what's so interesting to me, is that they're so focused on these, big things. And I was for a while, and don't get me wrong, because I really wanted to hit that that one goal. But, as you get older, you get wiser. And it's one of those things that I'm just like, oh, wow. And so many of them, it's just a facade. Mm-hmm. It's just such a facade. And I want true meaning. And I want, I think, a big thing about me is integrity. And, I tried the team thing for a while, mm-hmm. too, and I realized that was not for me. But I felt like, it was just so much pressure in the industry to go that route. Mm-hmm. So, I'm not going to try that. I'm going to do it. And then I just realized, I was not happy. Mm-hmm. I was not happy as a team leader. I don't think anybody else was happy, just because, and I think to be a really good team leader, you have to be a really good motivator. And that's just not a strength of mine, because I've always had my own self-motivation. So I don't understand people that need to be motivated, right. That they have to have that. So I just realized that was not for me. And I think once I let go of that, that's actually when my business took off, because I was being more true to myself. So I will just say that for any of the listeners out there, don't feel like just because the industry is saying one thing, don't feel like that's the route you have to go if it doesn't feel true. Try it, see if it works. If it doesn't work, shift, pivot, just like we've all been doing, go the next route. And I feel like that's something that would be an important lesson that I would love to kind of pass along. That was kind of a hard thing for me to learn and come to grips to.
Yeah, that's smart. And we've talked about that a lot over the time in our podcast is, be who you are, know who you are, and be who you are. That's how you're going to be happy in the business. We talk about taking the DISC test to figure out who you are, to figure out which type of lead generation is best for you. Not everybody is best doing the cold calls out there. Not everybody's going to be best going and seeing people all the time and spending time with their past clients. Some people just want to stay behind a desk. And being yourself, that is an unbelievable truth. Knowing who you are and being able to get to that point and accepting this is who I am, that's another place of freedom. It's I can now do my business the way I want to do it.
Right. And I think one of the things, so this was several years back, we talk about the business a lot. Our whole family right. is in the business. It just comes up all the time. So we're pretty much immersed in it. But when I was kind of going through that transition, one of the things I'll put a plug, I was really glad that you had come up with is like, how can we support agents that are doing a good amount of business, but that don't want to have a team, don't want to have a full-time assistant, and putting what our company calls agent services in place. And that really helped, because to do a certain level of business, you have to have some sort of help. You've just got to, right? There's just no way around it. But it doesn't mean you need somebody full-time, and it doesn't mean you need someone to do everything all the time. So that really helped, because it gave me some support to kind of do the business that I did. Just so everybody kind of knows. So like in 2021, I did about $20 million. Again, that was no assistant, no full-time help, but I did have agent services to help do that. So if I needed a showing and I was doing something else, that could happen. Or also, it allowed me to actually take vacations and do the fun things to actually, have live life as well. So that would be a really good plug to you, because you came up with that with kind of our conversations and some of the struggles that I had through that.
It's amazing. It's almost like you've been listening to our podcast, because, again, another thing we talk about is leverage. So, yeah, perfect. I want to take you back a little bit, and I hope this isn't like PTSD to talk about this, but we've brought on a handful of husband-wife teams into our office. You're seeing a lot more husband and wife teams out there. In this market where there were a lot of people getting into the business, you had people kind of coming together and people leaving their jobs and saying, "Hey, I'm going to work with my spouse." Hopefully this isn't bringing up hard times, when we kind of work together. But talk to us about that, because there's people out there that are going through that, and we know there was some really good times and there were some real struggles.
Right. Very true. Both of those things happened when we worked together. I would say it was a little harder than easier to work together, especially we were in, the same small office, like back to back. So when you're together 24/7, it is a definite challenge just in itself. And I think, a lot of people probably even realized that when everybody came home to work through the pandemic. It's a very different piece when everybody's home together. But so when we did that, I think that was definitely challenges, but really trying to lean on each other's strengths. And the hard part was having one true person being the leader. I think that was the hardest part, because at home, we're a complete team, but we really needed, and we both step up in different ways. Like in certain areas, I'm the kind of our team leader at home, but other areas at home, you're the team leader. Whereas at work, it was kind of really hard to have, I think, I was technically the leader, but you're naturally a lead, like you're more of a leader than me. So I was not a good leader. And so you were trying to and so we just kind of had this little back and forth, and that was a little bit hard, I think.
Well, don't sell yourself short, because you're a fantastic leader. But yeah, I think that is going to be the rub that you end up with is occasionally there are going to be times where there's going to be disagreement. And just like in marriage and in life, you always have to have compromise. And in work, it's even more compromise. So I think that's one of the things that I would just tell, husband and wife teams out there, is just know that there's going to be times that a decision is made that you don't like. And you just got to turn the page, move on. Understand that you may not like it and you may come to like it, but at the end of the day, you have to compromise.
Yeah. And I think really looking at each other's strengths and trying to build on that and having some true conversations around that. Like, okay, you're really good at this, but I'm really good at this. And hopefully each other agrees on that. And then try to, kind of divvy up the roles those ways. So yeah, it's definitely challenging, but it can be rewarding because you have lots of celebrations, but you also have a shoulder to cry on if there's, an issue. It definitely has its positive and negatives. I think we personally are better kind of how we're doing now, because we are together but separate.
Correct.
So you do your own thing, I do my own thing. We're in the same office, not in the very same little space, but across the hall from each other.
Right. We can close the door if we need to.
Yeah. we have an awesome relationship, but I just think for us in general, that was a good thing for us. I think our assistant at the time would probably also fully agree.
Agreed.
Because she unfortunately had to be in the middle of some of our
spats.
We'll say disagreements.
Well, Carley, thank you so much for being with us today. You've left us like an amazing amount of gold for the listeners. I just want to tell you, I appreciate you, and I'm thankful to have you as my partner in life and in business. So, but before we get away, I want to ask you, Is there anything else you want to share with our listeners out there?
That's a good question. I think maybe just going back on what I kind of spoke about before. It's just really trying to understand who you are, which I think is everybody's goal in life is, who am I and what am I, why am I here and what's my purpose? If you have a creator, kind of, lean on that, and because I certainly do, and just kind of helping find and where my purpose is and just what makes you tick and what makes you happy, and try to find a right focus on that. Now, just know in any climb of any type of business, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be sacrifices, and and there was definitely a lot of that. When I first started, I put a ton of time, energy, and effort in building my business. I mean, a ton. But I also had it to do. I didn't have any children at the time, so that was blessed there. So work really hard when you can, but don't sacrifice your family for it. And just try to find where you are in the season. Yeah. Hopefully that all makes sense.
Yeah, very wise counsel. Well, thanks for being with us again today. And you guys,
Thank you.
if you want to contact us or maybe ask a question to Carley along the way, hit us up on our social media accounts or leave us a message. We'd love to get back to you and see any way we can help you. But until next time.